Hi, everybody. My name is Jonah Hardy. Today, we're going to be diving into an exciting journey through brain based learning and its transformative potential in our classrooms. Hopefully, this will assist in enriching your classroom experiences. I'm eager to get started. The most important concept of brain based learning deals with understanding our students on an individual level. Each and every one of our students has unique needs, wants, desires, and circumstances that have placed them in the position they are in today. What works for one student will not always work for the next one. We have to be ever evolving in our approach to education in order to better facilitate the growth of our students. Understanding the brain helps us tailor our teaching methods to be more effective. It's about shifting from one size fits all to an approach that acknowledges individual differences and leverages them for deeper learning. Today, we'll cover key areas. We'll cover different types of learning. How can we cater all learning styles effectively? The effects of emotion and the learning environment. What impact do these have on learning, and how can we optimize both? The power of transfer assessment. How can we assess not just for memorization, but for real understanding and application? Student motivation. What drives our students to learn, and how can we tap into those drivers more effectively? Self regulated learning. How can we help our students become masters of their own learning journeys? So, there are many different types of learning. These are just three that I felt really resonated with me and my teaching style, and something that I think that each teacher can kind of maybe learn a little bit about. So, habit forming and conditioning. So, explanation. The type of learning happens without conscious effort. As individuals develop habits and behaviors, they are reinforced by outcomes, whether they are rewards or avoidance of negative consequences. This can be really useful in a lot of different things. It's a gradual learning influenced by words and context clues. It involves reinforcement of that good behavior to reach those short term or long term goals. An example of something that could be similar to this would be consider a classroom where students are praised every time they submit their homework on time. Gradually, they'll develop a habit of timely submissions to continue receiving that praise. It's vital to recognize that much of what students learn behaviorally in the classroom comes from this type of conditioning. Teachers can leverage this by setting clear expectations and consistent consequences. Something that I found really interesting about this is in my readings, it said that you should do sporadic rewards. It shouldn't be a almost every single time influence rewards. It's actually more effective to form a habit if you do inconsistent rewarding of behaviors. That doesn't mean don't reward them when they've done things right, but if they expect a reward every single time they do it, it won't necessarily drive home the concept as well as if you sporadically reward them for good behavior. All right. So the next one that we're going to be moving to is observational learning. This learning occurs through watching others and emulating their behavior. It's a foundational way that students can learn social skills and norms. Observational learning underscores the importance of role models and mentors for students. Educators can model the behaviors and attitudes they wish to instill in their students, such as perseverance, critical thinking, and empathy. It's a higher level of thinking, requires advanced cognitive skills, and it requires understanding social constructs. So, this could be a little bit more difficult for your students who might be on the autism spectrum or students who might not really get those normal social cues. Um, one thing that you can do to kind of improve this is that you can be the person in the room that you want all your students to be. If you are consistent, you are honest and open with who you are, the students will start to see that and gravitate towards that. Consistency is key in this observational learning. An example of this, a teacher might demonstrate how to solve a complex math problem step by step while thinking out loud. Students learn not only the procedure, but also the problem solving approach, which they imitate in their own work. The next learning, the next type of learning could be learning by making inferences. This one I find to be very important and higher level thinking, especially for critical, complex decision making or or creative pursuits, things like that. So, this involves actively forming and testing hypotheses based on observed or known information. It's crucial for higher level thinking and problem solving. Encouraging students to make inferences can boost their analytical and critical thinking skills. This type of learning is essential for real world applications where students must draw on multiple knowledge areas to make a decision. For example, a science teacher could present a phenomenon like plant growth under different light conditions without explaining the reasoning. Students hypothesize why some plants grow better, the others then go through and test the hypothesis in an experiment, thus learning through inferences. The next concept is emotion and learning environment. Specifically, what I like to cover from this section is music, humor, and movement, and how they play a role in kind of influencing our classroom environment. Um, Music, humor, and movement, they help though to create those long-lasting memories. They actually trigger positive emotions and brain chemicals that make learning more effective. I mean, think about it. The most fun that you've probably ever had learning something was, well, when you were laughing, moving around, being involved, when you are an active participant in learning. Music can alter the atmosphere of a classroom, setting a tone that can either soothe or energize students. It affects the emotional and cognitive process, aiding in memory and retention. Studies have shown that background music, especially classical or instrumental, can enhance concentration and endurance during tasks requiring extended focus. It's important to choose music that complements the learning activity without becoming a distraction. For example, during a writing session, playing soft instrumental music can help create a calm environment that enhances students' concentration and creativity. Alternatively, upbeat music can be used during physical education or breaks to invigorate students and prepare them for learning. Humor. Humor not only reduces stress and tension, but also increases engagement and retention. It makes learning more enjoyable and more memorable. Appropriate and inclusive humor aids in creating a supportive learning environment where students feel comfortable and valued. However, it's essential that humor is used thoughtfully and does not alienate or offend anyone. A teacher might use a funny anecdote or lighthearted joke related to the lesson to content to break the ice or clarify a complex topic, helping students relax and engage more deeply with the material. Basically, just be a fun teacher, be engaged. Movement. Physical movement in the classroom can boost energy levels, improve mood, and enhance cognitive functions. It's particularly effective in combating fatigue and attentiveness. Critical info. Incorporating movement into lessons can range from simple stretching exercises to activities that integrate physical action with academic content, such as walking, debates, or role playing. In a history lesson, students could be asked to physically arrange themselves in a timeline, moving forward or backward in time to represent historical events. The movement helps solidify chronological understanding and makes the learning experience dynamic and interactive. Here's a little infographic that I have that kind of covers some of these things a little bit more in depth. If you'd like to take a peek at it, it's embedded into the presentation. So I'll share this with you guys all later. You guys will have access to it later. So the next concept that we're going to move on to is assessment, specifically the power of transfer and assessment. So there's a bunch of different methods that you can use for assessment that are effective for learning. I mean, as teachers, we all know this. This is about maybe changing the way that we assess to address those individual learners, those kids that are different. We need to understand that not everybody displays their skills in the same way, and we have to kind of help them, help our students display their information or their knowledge and boost their morale and get them more engaged in the class by giving them opportunities to really showcase their skills in ways that shine for them. For example, like if there's open resource test, these tests significantly reduce the stress typically associated with memorization by allowing students to access resources. We shift the focus towards analytical skills. This approach encourages students to understand concepts deeply rather than just memorizing facts, which is so crucial for real world application and long term retention. Take home tests. These allow students to take the time to engage deeply with the questions and craft thoughtful responses. The extended time frame promotes thorough comprehension and lets students demonstrate their mastery of the material in a less pressured setting. It's an excellent way to assess critical thinking and problem solving skills. It's really good for those like long term response, like really let our students dive deeper into their own minds without feeling rushed to find the answer. Student generated questions. So, this technique encourages students to reflect on what they might have learned by creating their own test questions. It's a powerful method that simulates higher level thinking and empowers students by involving them directly in their learning process. This kind of activity participation or active participation helps cement knowledge, and builds analytical skills. So this none of this really relates to my class particular because well, I don't really give tests, but this next one, this applies directly to my class, and I think that it's so important for every teacher to maybe think about this next concept, which is pre-approved projects. These projects require students to apply their knowledge in practical scenarios, which helps integrate new information with existing knowledge. Whether it's a science project, a history report, or a creative assignment, these tasks allow students to connect theory with practice, enhancing their understanding and retention by giving them something to actively work towards that's not a test. It's a showcase of your skills, a showcase of what you've done. It gives them a chance, it gives you a chance to relax a little bit, but it gives them a chance to really show what they've learned in a way that speaks to them. Um, so then when there's revision and retest, the strategy isn't just about giving a second chance or oh, earn your points back. It's about learning from your mistakes, reviewing what they got wrong and understanding why. Students engage in metacognition or thinking about their or thinking about their thinking. This process not only helps them address specific knowledge gaps, but also teaches them strategies to approach learning more effectively. Holistic learning approach. Finally, our holistic approach to learning assessments. By combining various assessment methods, we build students' confidence and reduce anxiety, creating a more positive learning environment. This approach promotes deeper and long lasting learning by engaging differently. We need to understand that our students are not robots. They all don't follow the same pattern, so we can't test them all in the same pattern. We should be adjusting and modifying our assessments regularly to kind of address our students and understand how their brains work, how their minds work. Now, finally, we move on to probably the most important concept, I think, of brain based learning, and that's student motivation. To me, this is something that I kind of pride myself on. I think that you have to build true student motivation to get that intrinsic motivation that we all seek in our students. We have to first build relationships with our students. They need to know that they can trust us. They need to know that they can rely on us and that they can come to us when we are making mistakes. And that doesn't mean, or when they're making mistakes, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be the expert, the content area expert. You don't have to be the most knowledgeable person in the room about everything. It just means that you have to be the most transparent and consistent person. That's how I build trust. I will say more often than not, I am not the smartest person in my classroom. I like to think that I'm a very intelligent person, but I promise you, some of these high school kids, they'll blow you away with how brilliant they are. And that's okay. It's okay to not be the most knowledgeable person in the room. I think I take that as a learning opportunity. I take that as a chance to showcase to our students that, hey, I might not know the answer to that exact question, but let me get back to you. Or, hey, let's figure this out together. Let's learn how to grow together. And I think that when you are vulnerable with your students in that sense and can kind of demonstrate that kind of camaraderie with them, they're more engaged in your classes because they don't see you as just Mr. Hardy. They see you as their teacher and as a friend, and they want to be close with you in a sense that they're going to try a little bit harder for your content area. They want to make you proud of them. You never really know what these kids are going through at home. You never really know what their lives are like back at home. And so you have to take that time to build those relationships in order to understand that student. And that kind of leads you to the next point, which is making the content relevant to them. So once you know who that student is, once you know who they are, it becomes much easier to relate your content to what they want to learn and what they want to know. I mean, it's very hard to get a kid to be motivated about math if they don't want to be a mathematician. But if a kid wants to go into business and wants to understand um, numbers and accounting and the stock market, that's all math. It's just all about how you transfer those skills and transfer that knowledge into a medium that speaks to them. You have to be flexible. You have to be willing to change things up. You have to be willing to say, okay, well, this isn't working. These kids aren't engaged. What can I do on the fly to kind of reignite this engagement? And that kind of leads you to the last category, which is getting igniting that passion, getting your students to be passionate about what they're doing and getting them to be engaged. And this is our final topic of brain based learning, which is, I think, the goal of all teachers in all classrooms, and it's self regulated learning. So, self regulated learning is essentially getting students to govern themselves, getting students to kind of find a passion for their own learning, to take control and responsibility over their learning concepts, and make them be the ones that are pushing their understanding to that next level. It's so hard to get kids to be invested in school sometimes, but this is the goal. This is what we should be working towards. We should be working towards trying to get our students engaged. And the way that you can do that is through everything that we just talked about today. It's the different forms of assessments. It's producing that student intrinsic motivation. It's going through and understanding how our students learn. What are the different learning methods that reach our students? Incorporating music and fun and making our classrooms a more enjoyable and lively experience and not making it that dull, direct instruction classroom that we are so accustomed to in film and video and everything else that you see. And how do we make our classrooms that more engaging experience to get those neurons firing in their brains to get them excited about making those long term educational goals that we want for them, that their parents want for them, that the all stakeholders want for them, but most importantly, what they want for themselves. E- Every single kid, I've never met a student in my entire life who will say, I'm happy being dumb. I'm happy not doing well. I've never met somebody who's been like that. They might like say it in front of their friends, but if you pull them to the side and kind of talk to them one on one, every single kid wants to learn. They do. They want to be intelligent. They want to be successful. And I think that we have to learn how those individual learners learn in order to really approach that, to get them to be that self-regulated, that intrinsically motivated student. So that's kind of the basis of what I wanted to talk to you all about today. It's just a little bit of a PD, kind of the things that we've learned in class and things that we've done together through our brain-based learning activities. Um, I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to my presentation and hope it went well. Again, thank you so much. Here's a list of my sources. There's a collection of different articles and things and different publications. So please take some time to check them out. I hope that you've enjoyed my presentation. And again, thank you very much.